Guys, I'm probably just as hyped as you are about the revival of Budokai Tenkaichi, but before we bust all over the place, let's discuss some key aspects of the older games and what would be needed to make sure that this fourth title is a success. If you're watching this, then you probably know the main issue that people have in Dragon Ball Z games. It's that they cover the same thing over and over again. Now, like the sheep that I am, I never really minded this as a kid because the games had always presented themselves in a different way. Budokai 1 is my all-time favorite, with continuous cutscenes of story with episode title cards weaving right into the fights. Its only pitfall are the clay graphics and ending at Cell. Budokai 2 is controversial, but I loved playing essentially what was a digital DBZ board game. And in this game, there will be dialogue between the characters before you got a loading screen in and out of fighting. It is here that we get the Buu content. Now, Budokai 3 handled this the same way, except navigation was done through open world flying. It built upon the Dragon World, as you were able to fly around and find events and key points around Earth, which was how you would unlock some characters such as Broly and powering up to Super Saiyan 4. And we can't forget the whole leveling system that allowed you to power up your character, which then pretty much enabled you to grind and provided endless replayability. Budokai 3 expanded story by including some GT and movie characters, although the emphasis wasn't too focused on them and were short in comparison to the main content. My brother and I easily spent over 100 hours on that game, and it was the one that we pretty much always popped into the PS2. What Tenkaichi brought to its own storytelling was reminiscent of Budokai 1, but in my opinion, doesn't hit as strong. What you could call cutscenes were delivered with in-game graphics and mechanics which would sometimes look choppy.
Yeah. You mean Krillin?
But nonetheless, it was the first game to bring about this more three-dimensional fighting view. They pushed the story ahead by including a few more characters such as Janemba and Super 18, and there actually was some Dragon Ball content, but it all took place in a single tournament. After you win your fights, you will return back to a battle select screen, which is something I want to mention later on. Tenkaichi 2 brought back flying across the earth, which I don't remember at all, so it improved upon the flat presentation of in-game cutscene, fight, and back to a menu. This game also had a string of extended story beyond the Buu saga, including the addition of 10 movies and the 2 specials of Bardock and Trunks. But no Dragon Ball. With its own take on a level system, Tenkaichi 2 would show you your level and the enemy's level, indicating whether or not you were gonna get beat. And of course, you gain XP after each win. I needed that. Tenkaichi 3 brought back the goddamn battle select screen, but nonetheless was still innovative in the way that the 2 characters battling would have conversations throughout the fight.
That's really your best, and I'm more than disappointed.
I remember thinking that was so cool, like, oh my god, they're actually talking to each other. As with many of the later entries, there is an end screen result where in this game you are awarded Z points currency for the item shop. What Tenkaichi 3 did really well in my opinion was cover a large scope of story. It took what 2 did and added back Dragon Ball on top of it. It wasn't the most coverage, but we hardly ever get Dragon Ball content. So where does that leave us for the future? I want to round up these 6 titles and grab their best features that would make Tenkaichi 4 pretty damn fun and bring back that childhood glory. I've got 3 points to make, starting with seamless gameplay. This is more of a Budokai thing, but these stories are so much more smoother. Budokai 1 feels like you're binging the show. Budokai 2 gives you continuous gameplay through board and battle. And Budokai 3 lets you explore and gives you more to do than just your main objective. With the exception of 2, the Tenkaichi series seems to take you out of the experience of gameplay by going back to a DVD's scene select. There's our movie reference, baby. There's nothing wrong with this, but while comparing the games together, I just can't help but notice how much better it is to not include too many menus between gameplay. 4 out of 6 of the titles do a good job at keeping you sucked in, which brings me to my next point I want to cover cover enough Dragon Ball. For the most part, these games always built up on top of each other and blew the last out of the water. Tenkaichi 4 has the possibility to build upon Dragon Ball's story if they wish to make this an endgame sort of vehicle. The end-all be-all DBZ game to sit back on your couch and enjoy. This way, the main issue of playing the same story over and over again is put in a new light with seeing our hero take on his earlier threats. And it doesn't have to be beat for beat like the anime. These Dragon Ball Z games love to narrate the start of each saga and the more relevant times can be brushed away through this medium or by a series of cutscenes. At the end of the day, if this isn't implemented, then oh well, I just always wanted some Dragon Ball story in the games. Moving away from the past, this game has to incorporate Super. Kakarot is a title under the Z name, but still has Super thrown into it. Whether or not it is DLC is something I will mention in my next section, but we have enough of Dragon Ball Super for them to portray it in this day and age. Bring us Ball, Z, GT, movies, specials, and Super. Tenkaichi 3 brought a lot of what it could at the time of its release. And last but not least, it wouldn't hurt to bring in some what-if content. Dragon Ball games have never shied away from having fun and exploring potential otherworldly stories. My last point is to continue rewarding battles. This seems like something that the developers love to do in later installments of the games. And I'm not talking about this standard unlocking a character, a new stage, or skills. I mean how in Budokai 3 and Tenkaichi 2, you gained experience after every fight. I prefer the first iteration of this just because it was nice to use skill points and build your character however you wanted, really. Tenkaichi 3 did have a post-battle reward, but it was just money. Doesn't seem worthy of including, just like characters, stages, and skills. So with that, we'll mark up 2 of the 6 of the games do this. Again, it wouldn't be the end of the world if they didn't implement this. It just feels real nice to receive a reward at the end of your whatever. It's that dopamine, man. Let's hop out of story and address the much smaller other elephant in the room. Alright, welcome back. Tenkaichi 3 has one of the largest rosters ever at 161. But let's be real, please. A lot of these characters are just transformations. There are like 40,000 variants of Goku from every time period, from Kid to Kid GT to Super Saiyan 3 and Super Saiyan 3 GT. At least 40% of this roster are duplicates. And with that issue also comes movesets. Unfortunately, Tenkaichi 3 is the latest in the franchise, so it will be our punching bag here. Some of these characters fall flat in having a differentiated moveset, and to be honest, it's kind of a meme how many damn people use like Super Explosive Wave, or that Energy Wave Barrage, or even High Speed Rush. Alright, those rush attacks look pretty cool at times, but jeez! Tenkaichi 4 has to dwindle down on the bloated roster and polish up individuals so that they feel like their own existence. One copy of each character for their respective timeline is enough. Transformations listed separately just are not necessary. We don't need 200 characters in which half won't be touched because Super will help fatten the roster up to that legitimate 161, or at least close to it. This doesn't even factor in the potential doom of transactions. You know the gaming industry today, and many games love to shove us additional content for some beautiful, beautiful cash. And Dragon Ball is no stranger. Fighter Z has a ton of characters for sale for a few bucks, which adds up if you want them all, while Kakarot with its new season pass has additional content of up to $65. So where does that leave us? Honestly, I think it could go both ways. For example, the Avengers decided to make all of their story content free for everybody while opting in to monetize skins. Personally, I think going the Kakarot route with season passes is the way to go, because if they really loved us, they would drop new characters and story within their DLC drops instead of charging per character and per story. And again, piggybacking off Kakarot, spending $65 on a game you own over the course of 3 years from its release to its latest season pass isn't too bad. It's not Destiny's yearly $40 to $50. Ladies and gentlemen, the best we could hope for is for free content while they monetize some other aspect of the game, but we might have to settle on affordable season passes here and there. While the worst case scenario would be paying for characters and content separately, which I just can't see happening. In the end, Tenkaichi 4 has to integrate seamless gameplay while covering a large basis of Dragon Ball and rewarding its players for their successes. Balancing their character roster and transactions post-launch will lead this baby to the success we want it to be. If you love the way I presented this video, then consider supporting my channel by subscribing. I would appreciate it immensely. This type of content isn't something I usually create, but I do pride myself in talking about stuff that interests me rather than boxing myself. And you know what, guys? Forget literally everything I said, because the only thing Tenkaichi 4 needs to be a success is a killer ass intro.